We're rolling. So 5, 4, 3, 2.
And welcome back to Buzz on Veterans. I'm your host, Captain Rick Hoffman, and we're here at Veterans United. Thank you again, Ron, for hosting us again for another week.
I'm glad
Cheers
to
to
have
you.
back. Cheers.
And this is some sweet brew you got here.
Well,
thank
you
you so much
Appreciate
for sharing.
It.
And Megan and my other co-host.
Hi, Rick.
Hi, good to see you again. Michael, welcome back. And our guest here, our victim today, Jeff Servello, Mayport Surface Warfare Officer, destroyer skipper, and longtime friend.
Yes,
welcome
sir.
back, Jeff.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, so one of the things I like to ask is, you transitioned from active duty military into civilian life. Some of the challenges that you faced because you're not absolutely perfectly prepared for civilian life, but many of the skills are transitional and are supported. What was your experience?
So my experience was, I think, smoother than most in the sense that my brother started a business 3 years before I retired. And the aim of the business was, hey, when you retire, let's do this together. And so he founded Provision Advisors with the idea that he would do public relations and media, and I would come on board as an executive coach and do leadership consulting. So I kind of had a plan kind of mapped out. You know, it was either that or maybe try to become a harbor pilot. And my wife was like, your days are going to sea are done. Young man, you find something that'll keep you home. And so executive coaching it was. But yeah, it was having had the forethought to plan ahead of time was the key to it being a relatively smooth transition.
Yeah, it's sort of like the sea daddy of Mayport. The joke is if you're retiring in Mayport and you're a surface warfare officer, you come see me if you want to stay in Jacksonville. And that fact, it's not true, but it's become so true that even a retired vice admiral ran into me at a Navy function and up in Washington, Admiral Jackson.
Yeah.
And she stopped me and said, hey, Rick, we're coming back to Jacksonville, and everyone tells me I've got to check in with you. Not true, Admiral, but I love that's the way it sounded. You say something very important. I can't tell you how many of these captains I've talked to that are just finished their terminal leave and are now starting to think about work. I liken that to coming back from the hospital with a brand new baby and having to stop at Target to pick up supplies. I mean, no. You know, you graduate, you say, okay, now what? No, you've got to be thinking through that. So being prepared for this transition, it's inevitable. It's as inevitable as anything else in this life, and being prepared for it is so critical.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things, I just had this call with somebody from the Naval Academy Alumni Association the other day. We're working with some transition stuff for that. Your time in the military will end.
Yeah.
That's a given. And we are taught to plan for branches and sequels and to plan for contingencies. So why wouldn't you plan for every contingency throughout your career? And I think that we have done a disservice to folks in the military by making them think that thinking about their options is disloyal or somehow a mark of indifference. And what I would like to offer to people is you should always be thinking about your exit strategy. You should always be thinking about your options and your COAs in your branches or your courses of actions, so that, you know, if a good deal shows up, you're prepared to act on it. And at some point, like, it will end, whether it's at 30 years, 15 years, 7 years. It could be for a broken leg. It could be for, you know, you just have gone as far as you could possibly go. But at some point, it's going to end. And to have an idea of what you want to do and to have a plan is one of the most powerful gifts you can give yourself.
I think that is very wise. I am the worst possible example of being the mentor to all these people because I was a victim of that, exactly that. I found out that my wife had cancer. And so I precipitously decided to go without any thought about it in preparation. We don't talk about it until you put your papers in, or as you're reaching 30 in mandatory retirement, you're expendable and not necessary, and nobody cares. Nobody cares. So I think that's very wise advice indeed. Chose Mayport, chose Jacksonville. You grew up moving around as a kid and spent some time in other places. What was it about Jacksonville that said, I'm going to stay here? Don't you do like I always did, say my wife, but that's a cop-out. You got to come up with some other reason you just said.
Now, the biggest factor is when we moved here, my kids were in middle school.
Yeah.
And my wife and I had always planned on, we knew the math from when the kids were born that, hey, they would be
they're going to grow up, you know when they're going to be in high school?
Exactly.
What?
Yeah, right. And right about
planning
the time
ahead, like really?
Right about the time they were going to be in high school is right about the time we would want them to retire. And we knew our plan was always to get to 20, not do a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
And when we got here, we fell in love with the area. My wife loves the beach. I love the golf. The kids were relatively comfortable in getting settled. And it was like, wait a minute, you mean we have an opportunity to live somewhere and not move? And they were enamored by that. And when we left Newport before we came down here, they made it very clear that if I went somewhere, I was going solo, and that we were done doing that. They just fell in love with the area.
That's really hard. I did that twice, and I don't recommend that at all. But yeah, Jacksonville is just it's got such an inclusive and important. The military is important to the city, and both veterans and the active duty folks. You take such good care of us. So that's really good. And Ron, you know that as well as anybody.
Oh, I do. Yeah. I mean, I've lived all up and down the East Coast. I did several software startups. When I decided to start the brewery, I could have gone anywhere. I really love North Carolina, but we decided to come back to Jacksonville, where I served. I flew out of Cecil Field. And I mean, my in-laws were here. My dad was, my father-in-law was a naval aviator, did 3 tours in Vietnam. So a lot of history here of family. And then, I flew the S-3 Viking. So, there's so many of my friends down here. So what better place to start a business than where you have family, friends, and just a great location of the beaches and outside all the time, people drinking beer. So, we could have went anywhere where we came back to Jacksonville.
That's awesome.
So, yeah.
And Megan, you have a similar story.
I actually came from Virginia and went to Baker County, McClinney. And I love this area. I love all the big city that it has to offer and the fact that it's close to my parents.
Yeah. Did you tell me last time we spoke that you got some property in McClinney?
I have property in McClinney. Not a lot of land.
Yeah, but
a little house and some chickens.
Okay. Yeah. You're not growing the chickens in Duval County, so McClinney's probably a good place for you.
Yeah, it's good for that.
Yeah.
And Mike, you chose Jacksonville as your home.
Yeah, well, Jacksonville is where I was born.
That helps.
So, when I joined the Navy, I swore I was never coming back. But 25 years in, and it's funny, like you talk about planning for transition. I remember December of 2018, I got a call from my detailer, who was like your job placement officer, and said, "Hey, Phil, so-and-so did not screen for sea duty. We need you to go back to sea duty." I'd been on, 9 years of sea duty at the time.
Wow.
Oh.
You know what I call 9 years of sea duty? A good start.
Yeah. Well, 17 of my 25 were away.
Yeah.
So, but we, the detailer said you can either retire or go. And so I said, well, I retire. My daughters were becoming teenagers. So from December to June, I was retired. So talk about panic mode. It really, it put things in perspective.
Yeah. Again, I think you put your finger on something very, very important to advise to anybody out there that's in our business that might be looking for their next step. So one of the things we've been talking about for the last couple of weeks is we just celebrated our 250th anniversary, and last week the question was the importance of the 250 years. What's that mean? Today's question is talk about what the impact of liberty. What do you think? What does liberty mean to you?
Such a great question. And I think about it in
I didn't
terms.
come up with it.
I think I'll still give you credit. I think about it in terms of the phrase, right, that this is a great experiment.
Yeah.
And that we're never more than one generation away from it. And you think about, and I think most of us who have deployed or have family members who have deployed, we have been that hope for people. Now, we've gotten it wrong. There are times where we may not be, our armor may not be as shiny or as white as we hope for it to be, but we are still the best opportunity and the best hope. And I think that is something precious. And to me, that's the essence of that liberty, that chance that you can come here and you still have the opportunity to work hard and to grow yourself into something, right? Like you can fly airplanes and open a brewery, right? Like,
exactly.
or you can drive ships and decide to start a business with your brother. And those are things. Where else are there those kinds of opportunities? I mean, be a ship captain and then get into the movie business. I mean, Captain Rick, who has it better than you, right? I mean, so I think that it's that opportunity to really consistently recreate and rebrand and do it in a way where without fear.
Yeah. Good.
I mean, liberty, freedom, it's not free. It's got to be fought for. You got to be vigilant with it. You got to cherish it. And, we live in a country where you can be whatever you want to be. And so that's something precious.
It is.
Megan.
Yeah, I love what you said that we're just one generation away, and people forget that and they don't remember that. I think for me, it's valuing that and exercising our rights as Americans every single day, and the Constitution and learning these things. You know, we need to know them and we need to honor them and practice them.
Absolutely.
Means to me.
Yeah, and I think we can always look back and say we weren't the best people, or we didn't do the best things. But I think we need to be fully appreciative of all the sacrifices that people have come before us, those who have died for our liberties, and just to have a positive outlook and look forward, and be confident that we can overcome.
Thank you so much. And to my panel of co-hosts, and to Jeff, thank you so much for joining me. This is Captain Rick, Buzz on Veterans. Thank you so much. Cheers. Cheers.
Cheers.
And cut.